Gonzalez, Yuan, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we will move to roll call.
Student trustee.
Did you call my name? I'm sorry. There's an echo.
Yes, student trustee Parmigiani.
Here.
Student trustee Byrne.
I hear.
Trustee Withrow. Trustee Johannes. Trustee Gonzalez Ewan. Trustee Napoli Bellarice. Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Here.
Trustee Quinlan.
Here.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. With special effects. So we'll move to 3.4, introduction to the closed session.
Turn it on.
Any report from closed session?
There's
No report.
no report from closed session.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll move to 3.5, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Yeah. Is
Second.
there any discussion?
Yes. I would like to pull 8.1 and 8.2 from the consent agenda.
Okay. So we'll, can you amend the motion to exclude those items?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's acceptable to the seconder.
Okay. No other discussion?
Student trustee Parmigiani.
Yes.
Student trustee Byrne.
Yes.
Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We will move to 3.6, approval of the minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Student trustee Parmigiani.
Yes.
Trustee Byrne.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We also have 3.7, approval of the minutes from the board study session. For a motion,
Move to
Move
approve.
approval.
any discussion? Okay.
Student trustee Parmigiani.
Yes.
Student trustee Byrne.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to 3.8, associated student government reports. Do we have any student government representatives online or in person?
Nobody online.
Okay. All right, we will move, I believe we do not have a Peralta Classified Senate report for 3.9, so we'll move to 3.10, District Academic Senate report.
Thank you, Matthew Goldstein, President of the District Academic Senate. I got scooped by Peralta Gems, but I'll repeat my remarks anyway, even though you've all presumably read today's gems. But I kind of helped scoop myself by tipping off our editor, Mark Johnson, about a big story. And that is Peralta's Senate leadership, academic Senate leadership was in Visalia last week for the fall plenary. And the delegation brought 2 resolutions to the statewide body, both of which passed overwhelmingly. So this continues a tradition that has been ongoing for several years, where Peralta successfully advocates for resolutions that are passed by the entire state body. And again, these resolutions become the substance of the ASCCC's policymaking going forward. So the 2 that we brought came from BCC and from Laney. BCC's, which was developed by the education program, was a call to increase systemic support for early childhood education. President Matt Freeman of the Academic Senate, BCC, had to do some cat herding to make sure that got through, and it did quite successfully. The other res that passed at the state level was from Laney's ESOL department, and this was a argument for getting the UCs to accept articulation with ESOL oral communication classes. That too passed quite easily. So these are significant victories for those departments, but also for the students who will be affected by the advocacy of the ASCCC, thanks to our Peralta faculty. So again, a round of applause is in order for the hardworking faculty of Laney and BCC. That's Leslie Blakey at Laney and Matt Freeman at BCC. I wanted to just rattle off a couple of quick upcoming things of interest. One, I'll be meeting with the college the college councils and the roundtable at BCC in conjunction with Tashetta Henry from the Chancellor's office, the Chancellor, Tamil Gilkerson, and Matt Freeman as well, to continue to spread the word about the improved shared governance manual and the new committees. So there are more road shows coming in the weeks ahead. Those are on the calendars. So you'll be hearing about the continuation of that effort to spread the word on that new PBC. As you've heard, we'll relaunch these district level committees and this new shared governance manual in January. So it's all been very promising, and I think you'll hear some more upbeat reporting from me and perhaps from the Chancellor and others in the weeks ahead. So thanks very much and have a good meeting.
Thank you. So now we will move to 3.11, public communications on matters that are not on the agenda.
We have Justin Sari.
That's on. Okay, good. Good evening, board members, Chancellor, Vice Chancellors, presidents, lawyers, and of course, hello to all the new furniture in the district office. It looks super comfy, and I may sleep here tonight, so it's good. It's inviting, is all I'm saying. First, I want to say congratulations to board member Paulina Gonzalez-Brito, who, according to AC Vote, give a hand. According to AC Vote, and just about everyone has won her election and her seat on our board. So congratulations again. We look forward to 4 more years of student, faculty, and classified support from your place on the dais. I also must say congratulations to the 3 other candidates, Diana Delphine Polk, Nikki Gonzalez-Yuen, and Bill Withrow, all whom maintain their seats on the board, this time without an opponent, and thus not on the ballot, so thank you. I'll be honest, Trustee Gonzalez, that seems like the easier way to go. I'll be honest with you, but whatever. Also, I want to thank the board in advance, I guess it's on consent, for their approval of the 100% of COLA or cost of living adjustment for our faculty. I know that our faculty think of this as but a small step in the journey towards parity or near parity with community college faculties in the Bay Area. So we look forward to the bargaining process with the district, and again, thank you. And lastly, as I've said a number of times at this podium, I've been impressed with the level of transparency that has come from our district administration, especially when it comes to all issues, large and small. It's been super, it's been terrific, as well as the speed with which, they attempt to address faculty concerns. However, I do want to signal that while the administration throughout the district has been open and transparent about our shared financial situation, the lack of open and participatory discussions about the various strategies that we may want to employ to address our current economic shortfall has led to a lot of talk about the methods the district or colleges might unilaterally employ. So there's just a lot of chatter that's happening. Some of you may remember last year when before our current administration, when the budget or spending cuts were on the table, and the means that was used to address this problem was that the administrators from each of the colleges all went to a room at College of Alameda and made decisions about what would be done. No faculty were invited, and as far as I know, no classified staff or students were invited either. I remember that for our part, the faculty response was one of frustration and barely contained anger. Not just that we were not included in the decision-making process, but that the actual outcome came to most of us swiftly and without warning. I kind of starting to get that feeling now, hearing what I'm hearing, as if we all know that there is a financial issue because everybody's been very open about that, and we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or put another way, I know that there are faculty and classified staff whose hands have been hovering over the panic button since the first presentation about our budget at the
10
beginning of the
seconds.
semester. We're done?
10 seconds.
Okay. I'm not discounting that solutions-based discussions and announcements have already taken place. Sometimes the district does its due diligence, and it wouldn't be crazy if I happen to miss it. But the fact that I have other faculty and classified siblings coming to me with the same issue means that if you have, then maybe we should, keep making that effort and keep trying. I'm out of time, so thank you very much for your time and your indulgence.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
No, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll move to 3.12, the chancellor's report.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you, board president. We'll go ahead and start with brief college reports. We'll start with the illustrious president of Berkeley City College, Dr. Denise Richardson.
Good evening, Chancellor Gilkerson, Board President Gonzalez Brito, trustees, colleagues, students, and members of the community. I would first like to thank the board for its consideration of board items 6.1, 6.2, and 7.1. I'd like to take a few moments to talk a bit about these items. Item number 6.1 references the ratification of the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office Grant Agreement. This is for the California Apprenticeship Initiative of January 2024 for implementation of the Community Health Workers Program at Berkeley City College in the amount of $1,350,000. This opportunity for students is one that's near and dear to my heart, largely because it's equity coming full circle. This grant will support us in creating work experiences and opportunities for students seeking employment as community health workers through paid internships. Upon completion, these peer support specialists can pursue a variety of healthcare pathways. For example, social and human services assistants who assist social services providers in delivering client support across fields like psychology, rehabilitation, and social work. They help clients to access benefits and community services and support programs addressing issues like substance abuse, human relationships, and dependent care, all very important issues plaguing our community right now. Also, community healthcare workers, also known as CHW, delivers preventative health services to improve physical and mental well-being, control chronic conditions, and promote overall health. Having individuals from the community in the person of our students that look like the individuals in various healthcare facilities makes a huge difference. So we're proud to have this program at BCC and appreciate the board's support. CHW Services is relatively new and only became available through Medi-Cal in 2022 and expands resources for these roles. Item number 6.2 references Amendment 2 to the California Community College Chancellor's Office Grant Agreement for Mathematics, Engineering, Science, and Achievement, also known as MESA. Berkeley City College has a new MESA program, and I have to say that under the amazing leadership of Armando Franco, the director, who began with 0 students this past March, has now hit 70 students as of today. So we are very excited and proud of the progress that that program is making. Item number 7.1 supports amendment number 2 to the independent consultant agreement for professional services with Signet Testing Laboratories. Basically, this is funding that will help ensure that our new building will be safe and will have the structural integrity needed to be a sound building for us. So we appreciate the board support for that as well. BCC has a new website. Check it out if you haven't already seen it. We're very excited about it. We think that it's more intuitive and easily navigated to get to important links. I would like to thank our content webmaster, Tanya Leonian, and our PIO, Tom Rizza, for many, many hours invested in the tedious conversion process, for collaborating with their colleagues to make sure all of the information is accurate, and for a very successful launch. Also, Trend Lines, our research newsletter, jointly produced by our senior researcher, Dr. Fumise Sayavong, and our PIO, Tom Rizza, comes out twice a semester. It just came out again today, and this time it features data on our Society of Scholars programs, how it's progressed over time, and provides the results of our Sense of Belonging survey. You can get to it on our new website, so go and search for our Trendlines newsletter. Lastly, I'd like to again thank Judy Sue, who gifted BCC with a $10,000 endowment in honor of her mother and a $10,000 scholarship available for immediate use to support students who are having emergencies that threaten their ability to remain enrolled. Again, this is someone I shared with you earlier who we met at the Downtown Festival back in August. She wrote the checks, they've gone through, and now they're available. Well, not the endowment, but the other part is available for students. She has asked that they be most particularly directed towards students who are also parents with children 10 and younger. We are very grateful for Ms. Sue's generosity and know that these funds will make a meaningful difference in the lives of the student recipients. This concludes my report for Berkeley City College.
Thank you so much, President Richardson. Great news coming out of Berkeley City College. Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll now turn to President Melanie Dixon, College of Alameda.
Good evening. Good evening. President Gonzalez Brito, members of the board, Chancellor Gilkerson, members of the community. I'm so happy to be here this evening and really report some exciting things that are happening for our college campus. My board report is a little light, but it certainly is not reflective of the work that is occurring on our college campus, but more celebratory than the last couple of reports that I put forward. On October 2nd, we had the opportunity to open up our one-stop shop, which is affiliated with our basic needs area. So we had our food pantry, and this now provides an opportunity for students to receive critical items as it relates to their personal needs. So feminine items, toothpaste, all of the things that you would need outside of your food requirements. But I think most importantly, what was added here was a clothing closet. This clothing closet is something that allows our students to get professional clothing for interviews or internships, and certainly provides clothing for our students and their families, the children and their families. We're really excited about this space. It's set up just like a storefront, so it removes a little bit of the stigma. So I was excited when I was over at Laney and our other sister colleges to see their spaces very similar. We've served a numerous amount of students during this last couple of months. And so about 172 students have been served in our space, grabbing all kinds of items and including food. 150 of those students stopped by for food, 142 for personal care items. I think what I would highlight about this is just the engagement of our classified professionals and our faculty and community members, providing donations to this particular space of gently used items or brand new items to support our students and their families. And so we're very appreciative of this space. We look forward to taking you all through it when you visit our campus in spring. And I'd like to just give a really huge shout out to Jeremy Simmons and Director Natalie Rodriguez, who oversee this particular space under the supervision of Dr. Lewis, our Vice President of Student Services. So eager to show that to you and have a video link for you all as well when you have time to view that particular opening. The other thing that I would share for us is our gallery that we opened, and I want to thank our district partners for coming out and assisting us in getting the walls set up and painted and arranged for this particular viewing that we have. Gabriel Navarro is the artist that we have in exhibit right now, and Gabriel was a student of ours formerly and has went on, done really great things in his 4-year experience also out in the community, and has come back to show his work. So I placed one of his items there, but this has been running since October. We had it through Flex, so our faculty and classified professionals could enjoy that particular space. And again, it's in the H building for us, our humanities building, which really is kind of a heartbeat of our college campus right now. So excited to bring that artwork and allow individuals to take advantage of what it is that our particular program produces as it relates to artists. So I want to thank instructor Drew Burgess and of course Cynthia Horn, our tenured faculty members in that area that have invested a lot of time in this particular space and are preparing for their next it after today is the last that just take place. And this conference is for our students that are from African descent, and really an opportunity for those to learn about their culture, learn around building community across our system, not only within our district, but across the other 115 colleges. So this was a really impactful session. Our students provided some really great feedback, and our team did a really great job. So Dean Duke and many of our faculty members and classified professionals also took our students out to a basketball game and did a lot of other social events for community building. And so I am really excited those students got the opportunity. And if you all are aware, sometimes when you come from low income backgrounds, your world can be really small. So some of our students hadn't even traveled outside of this particular area, and we're glad that we could give them that exposure and celebrate them and their culture. So with that being said, also another video for you to view in your time. And thank you. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you so much, President Dixon, for sharing the exciting things happening at College of Alameda. We'll now turn to President Rudy Besikoff from Laney College.
Good evening, Chancellor Gilkerson, Board President Gonzalez Brito, members of the governing board, colleagues in education, and of course, our valued community members and students. Laney College was very happy to host the previous board meeting, and it was great to have you all at our campus, and we certainly look forward to next year when you come and visit. That week of October 22nd, and my theme tonight in my board report is really going to be collaboration, and I think this will come out, but that week of October 22nd was actually a very busy one, as on the 25th, which was Friday, Laney had its cleanup day of campus. A lot of colleagues turned out, especially employees, administrative and business services, our custodians, but also many of our colleagues from the district office. And I would like to appreciate Deputy Chancellor Nelson and his team just for the work that took place. Essentially, I guess my college is a big one, so our cleanup day actually became cleanup days, which actually went into the following week. And I just want to appreciate everyone who, in addition to their regular duties, really pitched in for this effort. Another effort that involved pitching in on the part of college and district employees was the celebration of Halloween at our football field. And it was specially put together for children in the Peralta Child Care Center, who came onto the field and were treated to games, a little bit of trick-or-treating, and some hay rides, although the vehicles suspiciously resembled our golf carts. I don't know what was up with that, but just want to say thank you to members of our college IT department, our Fab Lab, our custodial services, business services, especially facilities, athletics. There was a lot of work with setup, entertaining the children, cleanup. But I also want to appreciate all the individuals who donated. And among those donations, I want to extend a special appreciation to our colleagues from the district administrative services team who definitely gave to the event. And on our campus as well, I'd like to extend special thanks to Kenetta Barnett, Janice Brown, Ramon Ramos, Elwood Jefferson, John Beam, Sakai Metcalf, Kevin Tran, Holly Morris from our Fab Lab, and then the distinguished driver of the hayride vehicle, Vice President Ashish Sani. Finally, also participating in Halloween and getting my thanks is Classified Senate President Hope Lane. But this past Friday, she was also very involved as the northern region of the classified senates gathered at Laney College. And they came from as nearby as our other three Peralta colleges and as far away as Merced to attend this event. And I was privileged to be able to offer opening remarks. And one thing that really came through that sticks with me is that as I spoke about a lot of the work led by our classified Senate, President Hope Lane and Vice President Katrina Santos, around a number of different initiatives we had, you could sense the recognition from other classified professionals in the state about the work that we're doing. Also really appreciated seeing Jamil Tier, Tashetta Henry, and classified professionals from the other three Peralta colleges. I would say as a district, we really showed up at this event. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you so much, President Besikoff. We'll now move to David Johnson, President of Merritt College.
Chancellor Gilkerson, President Gonzalez Brito, trustees, colleagues, community students, good evening. So quite a bit has happened since we were last together. So just allow me to briefly just kind of run through a few things. We had the opportunity to celebrate or commemorate the 58th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party, which is October 15th, 1966, but 58 years later was a couple weeks ago. You all may know the history. Two Merritt students by the name of Huey Newton and Bobby Seale were the founders of the Black Panther Party. So we had a very rich celebration on our campus to commemorate that. We also were treated to learning about the history and culture of our Filipino Americans on campus through celebrations as part of Filipino American History Month. So very thankful to Maria Spencer, who led the charge on that. Also pleased to have had our Dia de los Muertos celebration, both on campus and the opportunity of spending some time in the Fruit Vale in Oakland, in that community. I want to add that our Merritt College Transfer Day, I said a lot of stuff happened. Our Merritt College Transfer Day was a smashing success. We had close to 200 students in attendance and close to 40 colleges there. We were able to send a cadre of faculty, staff, and administrators to Colegas, which took place in Sacramento. The theme of that gathering was justice and liberation, which seems to be quite fitting given the events of the past week. And we also had the opportunity to spend time with the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives as they honored our own Miss Margaret Dixon for a lifetime of service to the department and to our community. So with that said, I just want to take the rest of my time to offer a few thank yous. As my fellow president mentioned earlier, I want to thank our COO, Greg Nelson, and DGS, and members of our own facility team at Merritt for the cleanup that took place on November 1st. You all definitely did your thing with that. I want to thank in advance our Director of Public Safety over there, Mr. Abdul Pridgen, who's coming tomorrow for the safety presentation at Merritt. We have a lot of people feel very strongly at Merritt about the direction of public safety at the district in general, but Merritt College in particular. So having the opportunity to speak with you about that is very meaningful and significant. So I appreciate that. And I want to also thank the board in advance for your consideration of the MESA grant. We're about to join the party in terms, hopefully, depending on your vote. The opportunity to bring the MESA program to Merritt, which is going to mark a significant step toward realizing our goal of supporting students and achieving equitable outcomes in general, but in the areas of STEM in particular. So with that, I will close my report.
Thank you so much, President Johnson. Wonderful things happening at Merritt College, and thank you to all of the college presidents for really impactful reports tonight. So, board, let me first, public, I want to first correct the record that was made at the June 11th, 2024 meeting. At the meeting, the board approved item 6.6, renewal of the system-wide technology access collaborative in the amount of $103,395. The correct amount was actually $130,395. Unfortunately, the information on the agenda item was transposed incorrectly. However, the contract that was attached to the agenda was correct in the amount of $130,395. So I want to come back to you and really just correct the record publicly so you all know about the error and how we're moving forward. Tonight, board, also, you are approving 6 courses for each college in compliance with Assembly Bill 1111. 1111 is what they call it, common course numbering. The vision of the common course numbering is to achieve intra and intersegmental consistency for articulating commonly numbered courses within the California community colleges and between the University of California, the California State Universities, and the Association of Independent California Colleges and Universities, which is AICCU, while preserving institutional and faculty autonomy. Implementation of AB 1111 is to be completed in 3 phases. Phase 1, due to the State Chancellor's Office by December 1st, 2024, includes 6 courses: English composition, argumentative writing and critical thinking, public speaking, introduction to statistics, introduction to American government and politics, and introduction to psychology. I'm pleased to share our faculty collaborated on a joint approach to completing phase 1 and approved the courses through the Peralta Council of Instruction, Planning, and Development, known as CIPD, where many multi-college districts have struggled to meet phase 1. Look at it, Peralta faculty have come together and completed their approval process by October 21st, 2024. So kudos to all the faculty and classified professionals involved in the curriculum process. I look forward to your approval tonight. So a lot's happened, as you heard from my colleagues across the way, since our regular board meeting here on the 8th. So let me quickly give you something. So we celebrated the 2024 Oakland Manufacturing Day with over 200 students from Oakland Unified School District. This annual collaboration with the City of Oakland and Laney College allowed students to have firsthand exposure to advanced manufacturing. Students from 7 different high schools toured 10 local manufacturing sites and then came to Laney for lunch and a tour of the career education programs that we have there. Thank you to President Besikoff, Dean Alejandra Torres, Mark Martin, Emilio Sanchez from OUSD, the local manufacturing businesses, and all the classified professionals, faculty, and student ambassadors who helped make the day a great success for students. On Friday, October 11th, I had the honor of attending Guided Pathways, a student government retreat at College of Alameda, organized by student trustees Sophia Parmigiani and Pierce Byrne. Board President Vice President Louis Quinlan joined us and about 20 associated student government leaders from across the district for an informative session. Topics included Brown Act, Robert's Rules of Order, tips on running effective meetings, and for communicating out the results. All in all, the effort to engage and empower students via student government was really alive and well, and I really enjoyed meeting incredible group of students. And I did want to say thank you to College of Alameda for so graciously hosting the event. And the marketing team was there making sure each of the leaders had college branded hoodies for pictures. And so we have great pictures of our student leaders really showing their pride and getting the chance to collaborate. The Peralta Colleges are enthusiastic supporters of the State Chancellor's annual Undocumented Student Action Week, which took place October 14th through 18th this year. As you know, Berkeley City College was the first college in the Bay Area to offer year-round services via our Undocumented Community Resource Center. And now all of our colleges have resource centers for year-round support for undocumented students and community members. I was pleased to join a Zoom session during Undocumented Student Action Week that included the college president and our dedicated undocumented student coordinators, Carolina Martinez from Berkeley City College, Eranci Garcia from Laney College, Ilse Gonzalez from College of Alameda, and Fernanda Castorena from Merritt College. I also want to highlight that following the election last week, the college president and I sent a message to our students, particularly undocumented and mixed status students, reminding them that we stand by them and the services of our 4 colleges' undocumented support centers are open year-round to help. You can also see the message in the Peralta Gems. On Tuesday, October 15th, I was so happy to join our colleagues at Laney College for the 8th anniversary celebration of Restoring Our Communities, a student success program supporting formerly incarcerated students. Much the board, you heard about this at the visit to Laney College. For 8 years, ROC has been dedicated to eliminating the stigma of being formerly incarcerated and reversing the effects of mass incarceration. As you heard at the Laney study session, ROC supports students from recent reentry to graduation and transfer. Congratulations to Roger Chung, Kim Blackwell, Simone Harper, Vincent Garrett, Elisa Leon, and the entire ROC team for 8 years of truly transformative work. On Thursday, October 17th, I was thrilled to attend the Project Adam Catwalk, the College of Alameda's Department of Apparel Design and Merchandising's playful take on the hit TV show Project Runway. The program gave design students the opportunity to show off their latest fashions, to literally strut their stuff, and it was wonderful. And there are so many designs that I would wear myself, so I'm really hoping they'll invite me back. But I want to thank Derek Piazza, OJ Roundtree, and all the faculty and students of the ADAM program for putting on such a fun fashion show. I was bringing it back after the pandemic. And it was a pleasure meeting the illustrious group of alums who served as judges. So they all were alum from the program and just had really wonderful things to say about how the program has helped them in their own trajectory. And I gotta say, those students absolutely ruled the runway. On October 17th was a busy day. I ran from there all the way. I had the pleasure of joining student trustees Sophia Parmigiani, Pierce Byrne, and trustee Diana Delphine Polk, a fellow Berkeley alumna, on a visit to UC Berkeley campus where we toured the Anchor House. Wow, I have to say, the Helen Diller Anchor House is more than just a dorm. It offers UC Berkeley transfer students a transformational, I mean, it's really stunning design with the beautifully furnished apartments at a prime location across the street from the western edge of campus. I was truly impressed by Anchor House, an exceptional student housing facility that reflects UC Berkeley's dedication to meeting the unique needs of transfer students. The thoughtful design, attention to detail, and commitment to supporting wellness really stood out. And I was heartened, especially by the emphasis on prioritizing low income, first generation, justice impacted, and former foster youth. Every student deserves to live with dignity, and I'm thrilled that Cal's transfer students now have the opportunity to do this. And we were really treated as VIPs. And so I want to thank our hosts, including Jen Loy, the Associate Director of Government and Community Relations, Yvette Flores, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Educational Partnerships, Kyle Gibson, the Capital Strategies Director of Communication, and Adam Ratcliffe, the Assistant Director of Media and Communications and Critical Communications, and also Fabrizio Mejia, the Vice Chancellor as well. I sincerely appreciate the time they spent with us, and it was really a joy being with them. I'm proud to be both a Cal grad and a community college part of the Peralta Colleges. And as my dear friend over there, President David Johnson said, on Wednesday, October 30th, the San Francisco Bay Area chapter of Noble, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, hosted the 3rd annual Achievers Luncheon at Scott's in Jack London Square. Noble serves as the conscience of law enforcement by being committed to justice by action. I was proud to attend alongside David M. Johnson, Merritt College President, Abdul Pridgen, the district's Executive Director of Public Safety, and Professor Mildred Oliver of Merritt, and show our support for retired Oakland police officer and Merritt College Administration of Justice faculty member Margaret Dixon, who received the Noble Partner Award. So real congratulations to Professor Dixon. The board heard from Professor Dixon and other from the Administration of Justice program during our study session at Merritt College in September. And it was really gratifying to see Margaret Dixon honored by law enforcement peers across the Bay Area. And I got to tell you a surprise that Abdul Pridgen was actually an inaugural Noble Award winner back in the first year. And so it was a real pleasure to be with a rock star there as everybody was glad handing our executive director. And he was proudly representing Peralta. So a lot of great things. We were blessed with a beautiful day on Thursday, October 31st, when suddenly Stan Peters football field at Laney College was taken over by spooky ghosts and goblins and superheroes and video characters and more. These tiny but powerful beings from pop culture turned out to be trick-or-treaters from the Children's Center at Laney. Employees from Laney and the district service center, I say, went all out to make sure the kids had fun, and they did. And the kids, and I think both the kids and employees, I was getting lots of text messages from everybody with pictures. So many thanks to the Children's Center team, including Kanata Roberts, Janice Brown, Kevin Tran, to Hope Lane and the planning committee, and to all who participated, including Vice President Quinlan, the Associated Students of Laney College, who were there handing out candy, and to President Rudy Beslikoff for sporting the Laney Eagle mascot costume. And I just want you to know who was in the unicorn costume? None other than your board clerk, Sasha Amiri Nair. So I believe there are a few robot costumes on Halloween. Those robots would have fit in well at the robot soccer tournament on November 4th, hosted at Laney College's engineering department. Their Instagram post said, "If you loved our battle bots, this is a must-see. Expect fierce competition, tech innovation, and loads of fun." And I must say, it was loads of fun with everyone cheering on their favorite bots. I mean, it was really actually, I kind of said it was more like rugby and not soccer, but you know, it's okay. I just want to say, but it was really fun. I want to thank Laney Department Chair, Professor Mallory Berkdahl, for the invitation, and for all the math, engineering people, both faculty and students, who made the event possible. It was great to be out there with some of the Peralta citizen reporters as well, President Beslikoff and others. And I've got to say, I've talked previously about the thought leadership coming out of Peralta as our employees participate and lead statewide organizations focused on California Community College. This thought leadership was again on display at the 31st annual conference of the Community College Facilities Coalition, November 6th through 8th in Rancho Mirage, California. The Peralta contingent, led by Deputy Chancellor and COO Greg Nelson, gave not one, but 2 presentations during the conference, and they have told me the way to get people to attend your sessions to have amazing names. So the first presentation was called Preserving the Past, Preparing for the Future, Maintenance in an Era of Aging Facilities. My goodness, is that not just titillating? And this was with CO Nelson, Rachel Brilliant from Hush Blackwell, and Veronica Rivera from College of the Siskiyous. And this second presentation was even more amazing on procurement prowess, mastering the art of acquisition. I think they should have invited me to come because I could have just said the title, but with the director of purchasing, Shalon Rogers, was there, as well as Rachel Brilliant, and again, CO Nelson. So way to go, Greg and Shalon. Thank you for presenting Peralta in such a positive way. And we've got Abdul Pridgen out there talking and brought his Taco Bout Safety, Department of Public Safety Roadshow to College of Alameda. We know he's going to Merritt soon, after early visits to Laney and Berkeley City College. The promotion offering free tacos for students and employees called for people to come for the tacos and stay for the safety. Director Pridgen shared safety tips for protecting people and property and answered questions from the community about safety and security. He'll be talking about his tacos and other things to Merritt College, as President Johnson noted, on November 13th, a Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. in the student lounge. And I want to just give another shout out. I too got invited to the 4CS Northern California Gathering of the Senate. So on Friday, November 8th, the Laney College hosted the California Community College's Classified Senate Northern Gathering of the Senate. Located in the Best Center, the event was an opportunity to connect with fellow classified professional leaders, share ideas, and discuss important issues facing the colleges. And I, like President Beslikoff, was so excited to see, I actually knew tons of classified leaders, actually from my time in the colleges. So seeing leaders from Contra Costa College, the San Jose colleges, our own colleges and district, it was really wonderful. The day focused on quadrants of leadership, blueprints in leadership, a growth mindset, and a campus tour that included a visit to Laney's Culinary Arts Department. Special thanks to 4CS's Vice President, Susan Rodriguez, and Laney College's Classified Senate President, Hope Lane, for coordinating the gathering. I was pleased to be a featured speaker at the Management Essentials Training for the Association of California Community College Administrators on October 18th at Foothill College. My session focused on the art of managing up to intentionally create the right conditions for a positive and influential working relationship with your superiors. And on Friday, November 1st, I was honored to be the plenary speaker for the American Association for Women in Community Colleges, AAWCC's 50th anniversary annual conference, Leading Like a Woman, 50 Years Strong. The title of my speech was Finding Abundance, Waging Love on the Journey to Liberation. And I really have been consciously trying to center my approach to our shared goals in a more generative and hope-filled framework. And the liberatory education I'm so passionate about for students is also an important reminder and touchstone for me as an educator. I shared how Bell Hook's seminal Teaching to Transgress is an essential foundation for the transformation that can happen in our classrooms and services when we center love and break down barriers that allow us the space to think critically and explore. And finally, I want to thank PFT President Jeff Sanseri for stopping by my office alongside College of Alameda faculty colleague Rachel Goodwin. Jeff and Rachel came bearing gifts, including a super nice, very soft PFT hoodie and an autographed graduation photo from Douglas Paul Goodwin, Rachel's son who graduated from COA last spring. Thank you to Jeff and Rachel for a really great conversation. And the funniest thing about that picture is that faculty member Goodwin's son was the one who fell flat on his face on the stage during graduation. And so he signed a picture of him laying down, and you should see my face. Like, I have a expression of like, what the heck? Like, we're all like, oh my gosh. So it's pretty funny, and it's one of my prized possessions. And finally, to close, I want to officially announce that we have an additional board meeting in December. In addition to our regular business meeting on December 10th, we will also have the annual organizational meeting on Friday, December 13th. And that concludes my chancellor's report.
Thank you, Chancellor, and thank you, Presidents, for your reports. So we're going to move to 4.1, a presentation on total cost of ownership.
Thank you, Board President. So total cost of ownership is a data-driven process to assure adequate, well-maintained facility assets and to meet the educational mission of the district. In alignment with the board's 2024-25 goals, the presentation tonight from COO Nelson will provide an overview of total cost of ownership and how we're going to use it to plan for future needs. So I'll turn it over to Chief Operating Officer Nelson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Gilkerson. I appreciate that. And I know the president has mentioned some of the cleanup days. And so let me just give you some, I know we're taking some easy numbers on what the data is. It's not all in yet, but so far we've done 12 tons of shredding and recycling of paper. We've done over 50 pallets of e-waste and over 100 tons of trash. And we still haven't gotten all the data back from the companies that were used during that process. So I appreciate the presence in that process. So thank you for letting me do the total cost ownership tonight. I think it's an important process as we go forward as a critical component of the district, but also too for accreditation and strategic planning. And so to go through that, I want to talk about some of the historical context of that process. So in 2015, 2016, the planning subcommittee of the Planning and Budget Council worked on total cost ownership. During that process, they worked on draft guidelines and framework that was created for the district's needs. However, we need to re-look at those needs post-pandemic because the needs back in 2015 are different today in today's standards. Based on research that I couldn't find, the Board of Trustees never formally adopted those standards and those guidelines, although they're outlined in the revised document. And we have not tracked them for consistency with new or decommissioned facilities since that time. So while the framework is there, the data needs to be updated based on current definitions. And we need to ensure the document meets the needs of current operational reality for the district. There have been many operational changes, multiple bond programs, and we've decommissioned and built new facilities in the same amount of time that has happened. So before we go forward, what is the total cost ownership? So I just want to go through that process a little bit with the board so you understand. So the total cost ownership is really an approach to maximize the return on your investment for physical assets. So we look at what the cost is to build a facility, your recurring cost, which can be your operational aspects, renewal and replacement costs of major equipment components of a facility, your end of useful life cost, and what does it take, for instance, to tear it down, to scrap it, or to renovate it holistically. So you really have to look at all that, and that's based on the definition from the Association of Plant Professionals. That's one of the major organizations that helps with total cost ownership calculations. Okay. So in looking at implementation of total cost ownership, we really need to look at gathering data to ensure our assets are adequate and well maintained to meet the district's educational mission. But we have to consider all the costs in owning and occupying a facility over its entire life cycle. Now, when I say life cycle, we have buildings that are 20 years old. We have buildings that are on a 20-year life cycle. We have buildings that are on a 50-year life cycle. So we have buildings that are made out of wood construction, lean-tos, tents, small buildings of insignificant manufacturing. Then you also have buildings that are made out of total concrete, like a lot of buildings at Laney, the old brutalistic architecture. And then we have buildings in between. So you have to look at it not only district-wide, but you also have to look at it by individual building as well. So, but also in doing that, you have to look at the total operational cost of the ongoing repair, renovations, and upgrades to that facility over the same period of time that you expect that building to be the life cycle of that facility. Your future operating and maintenance costs has to be looked at for budgeting and funding decisions, which includes the staffing needed for custodial, maintenance, grounds, and so forth. Those standards for maintenance, grounds, and custodial vary as well. They have multiple levels of, and we'll get into that as we look at TCO more in depth in the shared governance process. However, we're not there yet. That's something else we need to work on. So what is used to actually build TCO? So when you look at TCO, you want to do a facilities condition assessment, which we'll talk about in just a minute. That should help you feed your facilities master plan about what your ongoing needs are for the district. As you build that facilities master plan, then you need to look at all the major equipment. And when I say major equipment, I'm not worried about, although it's important, I'm not worried about microscopes and so forth. I'm talking about major mechanical, such as HVAC systems, boilers, piping, the things that are going to affect the conditions and assessment of a building. You want to look at the preventative maintenance of that equipment. Then you want to look at the life cycle costs of that same equipment that affects the facility, or something as simple as glazing, which is glass on your facility. You want to look at expense and revenue data that's coming in. So the amount of what it costs you to run the facility, but also what cost is that facility bringing into the district. So for instance, if you have a conference room that you can rent out to the general public and you estimate it's going to generate X dollars over the course of a year, you should incorporate that into your TCO so to help you offset your life cycle costs of a facility. Then you should look at energy data and rebate programs. Your energy data, so you can look at spikes in energy consumption, which could give you a precursor to a longer term issue that could also affect your longer term equipment. But also your rebate programs that you can work on with PG&E, Spur, or your other utility providers to either help you evolve your current equipment, transition out your equipment because you get rebates and free funding from those utilities, or tuning up what you already have. And say, for instance, you have wall pack HVAC units and just going to digital thermostats is an upgrade versus the old analog thermostats. That alone can save dollars over time. You want to look at payroll. What does it cost you to operate the facility? Not concerned about academic programs or classified staff or student programs, but actually what does it take you for engineering, custodian, and grounds, and to manage it? What's the replacement cycle on your major issues and the major equipment and so forth in the building? And then look at professional development. Professional development, giving you a great example, HVAC over the last 15, 20 years has evolved from being a mechanical system to being an IT-based system. So you want to make sure you give your professional development to like our engineers to make sure they can evolve as well so they can learn how to maintain and operate that equipment effectively. So what does a traditional TCO model look like? So I want to go through that just for a second. A traditional TCO model is focused on the asset, solely based on the asset. So you're looking at initial cost, operations, maintenance and equipment, end of life cycle replacements, and then residual value, which I mentioned earlier. So those are traditionally your basics for a TCO model. But we need to go beyond that to meet the needs of our students and our population. But before I do that, I want to talk about what does it look like when you talk about TCO? This is a sample of a cost of an air compressor. This air compressor has a 20-year useful life. However, you can see where I got the red arrow going to the top line. The compressor is great for the first 15 years, but there's no maintenance done on it. Then at year 15, it spikes. Because what's happened is without doing any preventative maintenance, you shave 25% of the life off of that unit. Instead of doing preventative maintenance, which is kind of the green line on the screen, and if you just incrementally do it, you actually get the full life expectancy out of the unit. What we've done in this district, and this is not the only district this happened to, but what we've done in this district, we buy it, we put it in, we let it completely die, and then we just replace the whole thing. So we don't actually try to maintain it incrementally by doing preventative maintenance schedules and so forth. And so instead of putting a little money in it over a period of 20 years, we're dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace the entire thing because it's either out of compliance and no longer works, or the repairs are so great that it's cheaper to actually buy a new one. So what I was getting to just a second ago, let's build on what we actually have already based on the framework we have. And so part of what we already have is a facilities condition index that was completed last year. So part of a facilities condition index is what we call an FCI score, or facilities condition index score. So based on this chart, this is something that the state uses. We use it in Fusion, which is a state database, but we also use it for doing assessments as well. So if you fare in the good to fair range, you're in pretty good shape. And of course, all new buildings are in green. Then you start to, as the building starts to get a little weathered and worn, it starts to work its way across. Usually a facility, based on my experience, when you're in that poor zone, that little center zone, when you start to hit the poor condition, you need to make a strategic decision whether or not you're going to renovate or update the facility to bring the score down, or you're just going to let it lax, let it go by and let it get into the red zone. However, most of our facilities are in the red zone already. And so what's happened is we've gotten ourselves to the point where we have to make critical decisions on whether or not we divest ourselves of that asset and tear it down and rebuild, or put a significant amount of funds in to that facility to bring it to where it needs to be for the current operations of the district. So we're going to go through that. I want to just show you what that looks like overall. So when you look at the campuses district-wide, you'll see this is the number of buildings we have by campus and the amount of square footage we have by campus. And you can see the large disparities between square footage, buildings, and you just think about the population of these these campuses as well. So as you go through that, we're going to drill down that a little tighter. And we're going to look at the summary of finding for the conditions assessment. You'll see we have deferred renewal of $226 million, projected renewal of 119, which is recurring maintenance, and then $30 million in one-time non-recurring. So I want to take that down a little further. So next slide, please. So over the next 10 years, what does that look like? Deferred maintenance over the next 10 years is $226 million. One time is $30 million, and you can see the deferred maintenance as it goes out. Honestly, you should be doing deferred maintenance needs based on the life cycle of the building, not on a 10-year snapshot. Right now, we're only doing a 10-year snapshot because the number for 20 or 30 years or even 40 years is so astronomical, it's just not attainable. So right now, we're looking at a 10-year snapshot because it's something we can actually tackle in due course. So we do have a lot over the next 10 years. And based on that, where does it fall? So when you look at the construction dates of all your facilities across the district, the vast majority of the facilities were built in the 70s. So the vast majority are 50 years old. So they're well beyond their life cycle of that facility. Most facilities, when they were built in the 70s, had a 30 to 40 year life cycle. We're building on 40 to 50 year cycles now. And a lot of those buildings that were built in the 70s either need to be holistically refurbished, or in some respects, actually we have 7 to 8 buildings in this same study that are recommended to be decommissioned and demolished because their FCI score is actually over 1. And so the amount of money it would take to actually rehab them actually is cheaper to rebuild and get more efficient than it would be to actually rehab the facilities. There we go. So based on that, HVAC is the largest chunk of the deferred maintenance across the district with $107 million. And I think we've all seen that through the summer and so forth. I mean, I know I fielded numerous calls about air conditioning and so forth, and I can't count how many temporary air conditioners we have floating around the district due to the heat, and especially if we have spikes and heat waves and so forth. We're going to have the same problem coming forward as it gets cooler. We're going to have the opposite problem here in the next couple of months, and we're already starting to see it first thing in the mornings now. So HVAC is a major condition for the district long term. So when I talk about how we have a lot of things, 60% of our deferred maintenance in our facilities are in the red zone currently, 60% district-wide. That's an astronomical number when you look at a facilities condition index for a district as a whole. And while the bond has made a dent in a lot of that impact, and thankful to the voters for passing it, we have a long way to go when it comes to actually meeting the impact of our needs for TCO. So how can we do that? We can start leveraging technology and analytics to actually help us, because right now, a lot of what we're doing now is manual. So this TCO process, it's not a doubt that it sat on the shelf and didn't get used, because it's a very manually driven process. We need to utilize technology and data analytics to help us streamline that maintenance process and make more data informed decisions. We need to implement computerized maintenance systems, such as tracking work orders, doing scheduled maintenance tasks, managing our inventory being major equipment. Our current system is really outdated and limited, and it's basically limited to work orders. We do not currently have a way to assess or track what we're doing on an ongoing basis. We're moving so fast and putting out fires, we can't get stuff updated quick enough. And then we need to leverage those data analytics to make valuable insights into asset performance, maintenance trends, and so forth. When I say asset performance, if we have a facility that's putting in a particular brand of, say, air conditioning system, and we're having constant maintenance issues, we need to move away from that brand and go to a different brand. Unfortunately, when you have low bid type systems, when it comes to new facilities, the money's always tight, and the first thing that usually gets trimmed is the infrastructure of the project. And so they put in cheaper air conditioner systems, cheaper maintenance systems, because what happens is it'll last past the warranty of the facility, 4 to 5 years, and then it wears out and you wind up replacing it. I can replace carpet a whole lot cheaper than I can replace a 500-ton unit on a building. So it's just those type of things have to be thought about when you're building new facilities long term. So, the question is really, how can we improve on what we have and build out that framework? We can start doing it by including data to help make data-informed decisions. We need to think about the change in student demographics. So for instance, when you build facilities, where's transit? We have a lot of students who take transit on a daily basis. So we need to make sure we're not building buildings that are so far away from transit hubs and so forth that we can't serve those students. What about ESOL and making sure the wayfinding has multiple languages around the ESOL programs? So we're not doing everything in English and then have to print everything in multiple languages. We should just do it at the genesis of the building. Deaf and hard of hearing. I'm hard of hearing as well. And one of the things I keen in on is while there's code, then there's actually what's actual reality. And so a lot of rooms should have copper loops. They should be Bluetooth enabled for the hearing impaired. A lot of our buildings are not enabled in that direction. That's something we should really think about, because that's not part of code currently. But when you have a large population that needs those services, that's something else you need to think about. And also too, things like putting Braille, even though Braille is required on signage. For instance, I'll use the district office. The reason why you don't see any in the atrium now is because it was never installed correctly. So it was way too high. It was at 5 feet. It's supposed to be at 40 inches. Because if you have someone who's ADA impaired, they can't feel the Braille on the wall. So it's things like that attention to detail we really need to think about long term. Enrollment projections. I talked about last meeting how where our enrollment reality currently sits. So if you look at our current square footage and stuff that I showed you just briefly a moment ago, and you actually look at our enrollment, we're actually, as a district, we're overbuilt. We're currently overbuilt for square footage to student ratios. So it makes it harder for us to get state funding and matching money from the state when we're actually overbuilt based on our campus population and our campus square footage. Staffing changes or needs. We have some programs and services throughout the district where we have staff that are busting at the seams because the programs have grown. And then we have other programs that have a lot of square footage and they don't need it. They've actually shrunk over time. So we need to rebalance the scales on where people sit across the organization. And same thing with academic programs. We have some campuses where we have multiple programs in the same, say, genre of area, but they're disparate. They're spread all over campus when they could actually be housed together and save space long term and actually serve students in the same program for the same number of services. Then all this has implications on resource alignment and resource allocation as it goes toward the budget each year, but also long-term strategic planning and so forth. Next slide, please. So some goals to think about that we need to look at: establish agreed upon procedure for evaluating existing and proposed facilities. While we did an assessment, we need to do an assessment every 4 to 5 years, because as you bring buildings on, buildings also deteriorate over time. So you have to look at that on a regular basis. We have to utilize a concept of evaluating facilities and integrating that in our TCO on a routine basis. Develop procedures for assessment. We need to ensure a new database or new computer management system is tied into Fusion, Because right now we're doing dual entry. We're doing dual entry in our makeshift and inadequate program. We're also doing the same entry in Fusion, so they're not connected to each other. To be able to keep it up to date and our analysis fresh, we need to be able to put the data in and it all feeds to each other instead of us doing all these separate systems. To design a system that allows the district to annually update, as I just mentioned, and quit talking about the report. Quit talking about it just for accreditation purposes and don't put the report on the shelf, but actually implement the process. Facilitate really meaningful changes across the district. We feel probably a dozen or more calls a day around facilities. A lot of this could be helped and dealt with, and we're not going to get it there. We're going to, it's like I was telling the chancellor earlier, we're going to build it micro Legos at a time, but we're going to get there. And to get there, it's going to take time. It didn't break overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. But at the same time, we got to do it so the next generation of employees or the next generation of students who come in are not dealing with the same challenges we have today. So next steps. So beginning in January, we're going to start collecting and continuing the work already drafted. We're going to work off that framework. We're going to create a system of TCO that supports planning and provides efficient ways to manage all our assets. And what does that look like? That's the facilities master plan that's out of date. We need to update that as well. The facilities condition assessment, which we just had completed last year. We need to do an inventory of all our major equipment and infrastructure so we can actually provide preventative maintenance. What does that look like? That's where somebody actually takes pictures of all the units, all the model numbers, gives us OEM manuals. It's all tied to one database. So when we do work orders, our staff is not spending an entire day trying to find out what unit or what model number that is so we can actually get a right part. It should all be right there if they're ready so they can work on it. We need to do space utilization at the campuses so we can actually facilitate what space we do have on campus that can be utilized for other services and other support services or academic programs. And then we need to make sure Fusion stays up to date. This year we were late for Fusion after I came on board. We should be doing that on a regular routine basis along with our 5-year capital outlay plan. They should be going hand in hand because they're part of the same system. We need to kick off the facilities master planning process with the board and treat you as a committee, so to speak, so we can hear your input about that process as it moves forward through the shared governance process. We need to review the data and see where we have information gaps so we can actually find a way to plug them. And then share an update on TCO guidelines because this will long-term affect phase 2 of the bond. It'll affect the updated bond spending plan we need to bring to the board in the early winter. And it also affect long-term strategic planning. And with that, Madam President, I'll yield back.
Thank you, CEO Nelson.
Thank you. So we'll open up to questions and comments. Trustee Gonzalez, you want? Vice President Quinlan.
Thank you for the presentation. Several years ago, we tried to get a percentage of our budget committed to maintenance. And right now, do we have any budget committed to maintenance outside of our engineers?
No, we don't have any reserve or any deferred maintenance money set aside currently.
So given our current budget situation, is that possible?
Yes, but we can come back to that through, we need to fight that. We need, and I fight is the wrong word. Excuse me. We need to go through PBC through the shared governance process and present that. We have some ideas around that. We're not ready to prepare to show those right this second, but we do have some ideas on how we can prepare for the deferred maintenance long-term if we were not to have a bond in the future.
Did you say if we were not to have a bond in the future?
So the bond's going to run out at some point.
Yeah.
If the board decides not to go out for a future bond at some point, we have to live with what we have. So we need to plan for as if, we always should be planning as if we would not have a bond because it happened before bonds were allowable, before the 90s. We need to think about that long term because bonds are also not all to everything, right? There's some things that have to be paid for that can't be paid for out of a bond. So we need to have deferred maintenance money to help us in that regard, like broken windows, graffiti, those type of things. Those are not bond eligible expenses, but we do need to fix them.
Trustee Gonzalez, you want?
Thank you. Let's see. When you come back, it'd be super helpful to begin putting dollar amounts and dates. So like there's some of these things, it's like, all right, this particular thing, if we're going to do this, let's say bullet 1 on the TCO goals, this is what it would cost us. Here are the low hanging fruit. And here's timelines where we can do this. I noted that you pointed out that we have plans and then they sit on shelves. And so to make sure this one isn't that, just having some milestones, I think would be super helpful. Clearly, we don't have enough money to do what we have, and we've got bond money we haven't spent. If we were to radically rethink bond money allocation, like stop in the tracks, really just maybe we're not doing this building, maybe, right? Do you have a sense of what percentage of this deferred maintenance kind of work, one, fits within the bond language? And if we were to reallocate bond money, which wouldn't be popular, just right, gotta
understand.
get paid for somewhere. If we were, do you have a sense of the percentage of this kind of work that could be paid for out of the bond, given what bond money can pay for and what the language of the bond does?
Sure. So the bond allows for scheduled maintenance, not deferred maintenance. So I want to make sure that's clear. So scheduled maintenance would be the replacement of equipment, not the repair of equipment. So like, for instance, using HVAC as an example, we can replace the unit. We can't like replace the pump on a unit. So that's just the example we'd have to give, but we're so far down the deferred maintenance path that it will all be scheduled maintenance to some point. Right now, in the short term, I'd say in the next 2 years, you're looking at $30 to $50 million in the scheduled maintenance work that needs to be done. Whether or not we can get to that threshold or not, anything, because right now the bond spending plan has no money set aside for scheduled maintenance funds, or instructional equipment for that matter. And so when you look at bond phase 2 and bringing a bond spending plan back to the board in the winter, that's something we need to consider. As far as the allocations thereof, we also need to talk to the presidents and the shared governance process to make sure they understand where we are with some of these things. And also some of the things that were planned before is post-pandemic. It may not be the reality in this day and age. So we just need to look at the holistic plan for what's left in the bond to make sure we can meet the needs of what we have now instead of everything. Because right now we're in such disparate repair, we need to have some major things done to our campuses that we currently cannot do.
So one of the things you mentioned in the in the presentation was that at a certain point, some buildings, it's just like, we're not fixing this. We're
Right.
tearing this down. In the current bond language that the voters approved, can we do some of that?
Yeah. So
Start over?
voters are not, you don't need bond language to tear down a building, nor do you need DSA approval. So for instance, if you have a building that you're planning, so for instance, let me just use one that we're already doing. So let's use horticulture at Merritt. If horticulture already had a building that's in deferred maintenance shape and is sitting there as a placeholder until the new building is finished, once they move in and we have no plans for that old building and it's dilapidated, we can tear it down. We can just return it back to dirt, haul it off, and we can move on about our business. But right now we have no demolition money set aside in the bond.
If a building that we decide as a district, we say, look, this building we should go, right? And we'll move the programs, et cetera. And that building isn't called out specifically in bond language.
Well, you have a very wide ranging language in your bond currently.
That's
So
what I'm asking.
Yeah, so you have wide enough language that you can do a multitude of things around this arena that could serve the needs of the district.
Okay.
Whether it's a specific building, you don't have to call out specific buildings to do that type of work. You can upgrade, become efficient with academic classrooms, et cetera. There's broad enough language in your bond that you could actually accommodate that type of activity without having a specific language in the bond.
Yeah. And is it in your consideration at the moment, the administration's consideration, that maybe we actually need to go and revisit our bond spending and take this through shared governance and really get real about what we need and what we have? Is that part of the planning?
I would agree with that. I would also say we have some compliance issues around our bond that we have not done a holistic bond spending plan for the board.
Yeah.
That needs to be approved, and that's something that's part of BMET that we're bringing back in the winter, so we can make sure we tie all those loose ends up to make sure we have it. So right now I'm working on a bond spending plan to get us in compliance, but we'll also work with shared governance to move dollars around appropriately, so we can meet the needs.
Good. you hear the presentation, you know, meeting after meeting, and it's like, it's overwhelming. And I really feel for those of you who carry the weight of this thing on your shoulders. And I really mean all of us, not just you. The thing that gives me hope about this right now is that we seem to have a cultural shift in the district where consultation, collaboration, collegiality is actually a serious thing. And if it weren't for that, I'd be pretty depressed about this right now. As it is, it's just like, all right, here's another moonshot. You know, we got stuff to do. We're not rolling over and dying on this. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to figure it out together. So the frankness of the presentation, the dollars, et cetera, I don't know. I think that's a good thing. Let's not shy away from this. Thanks. By the way, the lobby looks really good. I mean, you know, low hanging fruit, right?
Speaking of deferred maintenance.
There's some things we could do that immediately improve stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money. And that's, it's nice, you know. Let's take the win when we get it. Thank you.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. And thank you for also, I have a list of, I just have a list here. So I'm going to go off my list. And thank you for also starting that we stop actually treating TCO as just an accreditation checklist item, and ensuring that if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. And we're going to implement this however long and how well effectively it needs to be implemented. And I know that in the past, I have certainly asked our chancellors about a total cost of ownership. And I think I've gotten repeatedly kind of vague, general, ambiguous responses. And I think that part of that was maybe that the 2023 or several facilities assessments that we've gotten. However, that's just one point. I mean, that's just one part of something so big and comprehensive. So what I'm hearing from you, and this was very educational for me, so thank you for that. What I'm hearing from you, and I always seem to be the person that looks at a glass very empty. So pardon my pessimism, but you're saying that the buildings are too old, that we have too many buildings, that we have too few students, that it's that it's very expensive, not too expensive, very expensive to fix, maintain, and rebuild. And you've given us a kind of plan forward. And what I'm seeing there is, or what I'm hearing from you is that we need a new system, we need a new process, we need a new plan, and all of that is so daunting. What do you need from us? Like how it's a lot that you're going to have to do. It's a lot that you all are going to have to do. So practically speaking, I'm not seeing an ask. I'm seeing what you're going to do, and I'm seeing where we are. But what do you need from us in order to be able to take this Herculean task and make it really happen?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I would ask is that you just keep a really open mind as we get into the winter time when we start bringing these things back. This is kind of the genesis behind the bigger things we got to bring you later around some of the updates around this, bond spending plans, et cetera. And it's really, without this contextual background, it's hard to understand why we're going to do some of the things we need to do in the spring. But when it comes to, building or tearing down buildings and so forth, I've wrestled with that idea for years over my career. And sometimes it is better to tear down and rebuild a new facility because it's actually more efficient.
Yeah.
Concrete structures are not easy to heat and cool. Newer structures are. And so also mechanical systems are much more efficient now. So while it's daunting to say tear down a building that's kind of at the end of its useful life, it's also reassuring to know that your utilities are going to drop by 20% if you build a new facility, right? So you have the short-term cost of the bond, but you have the long-term operational cost that you have to consider. So when you look at, TCO is not one of those things where, like I mentioned earlier, you have to really think about it over the life of the building. So if your cost for building X is going to be Y over 30 years, then divide it by 30. That's what you need for that building for each year, right? Then you need to multiply that across the entire district at different various points in time based on what age of the building. So I'll give you a perfect example right now. The new LRC building here on 8th Street is going to be a concrete, steel, aluminum building. The horticulture building at Merritt, the new one is built, is all wood. So they're two totally different life cycles on those facilities. They're also going to have different levels of usage. So for instance, CTE programs are very hard on equipment and spaces. So you have to recycle those facilities more often than you say would a classroom. That's just carpet and paint. So you have to really think through those aspects. It also helps you when you're doing your facilities master plan. Where do you need to put your resources? Where's the strategic thinking when it comes to TCO? Because you can have a nice, shiny master plan, nice glossy pictures and everything. But if there's no there,
Right.
what's the point in building it? And so you got to really think about that box that's on the map and what does it really look like in person?
I am looking forward to the bond spending plan. I think that's really needed. Is there also an analysis coming about whether we need to go out for a new bond?
Yes, there is. That is something we're actually going to be doing we are doing some procurement items around that as well that we're trying to work on this fall, but we will be seeing a new tranche in January for the bond, along at the same time we're doing the bond spending plan. So you should see them side by side to each other. So they feed each other.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking more about going out for a new bond rather than a new tranche.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll leave that up to the chancellor to answer that.
Not at this time. We're working on these building blocks of budgeting. And I think obviously long-term bond spending plan, we also have a parcel tax that will sunset in a couple of years here. We need to sort of be making some good decisions. So a lot of what we need, trustees, is just the ability, right, for you to connect the dots and help see what we're trying to build as like baseline good foundation for the district as we plan forward for the next 50 plus years.
Thank you, Chancellor. Vice President Quinlan?
Yes. So I have several questions. The first one is, will the Proposition 2 that was passed, will that be any help for us at all?
We do. It could. And I say that tentatively. We don't know how much is in the pipeline for the state as far as facilities, because the last one that was passed was in 2016. So I know there's a lot of bent up need around the state. As I mentioned, we are overbuilt based on our current population. So depending on the FPPs that are sitting in the queue at the state level currently, we may or may not get approved for them, but we won't know for another 6 or 7 months. They won't even sell the first bond sale of that sale to this coming summer until they get everything figured out. So we may benefit from that, but if we do, it'll be matching funds. And so then we'll have to make a decision whether or not we want to move in that direction or not.
Second question, do we currently have the maintenance staff we need to take care of our facilities, or do we need to both expand that and train up that staff?
Yeah, so you make a great point, and I've mentioned this before. So in my last district, I had 12 maintenance / engineers. In my last district, single college district, we have 13 in this district. So we need more engineers in this district to maintain. Right now, we run around with a fire extinguisher putting out fires all day, kind of a sidebar, but no, over time, we will need to increase the engineering staff, especially as we bring on new facilities that are more evolved and more high tech than what we're currently used to using. So we're going to have to bring on, not only do professional development, but also bring on a few engineers, not all at one time, but one here, one there. We just need to incrementally do it just like everything else. We need to incrementally bring it on, because at the same time, we don't have the management structure to manage a big influx of new staff. We need to bring them on a little bit at a time so we can incorporate them into the culture and the mindset of the district.
And the last question, I guess, I mean, we've, I don't know how, well, I'm not going to say that. We have refused to address our facilities issues in most of our accreditation reports. We've given ourselves passing grades every time. At some point, it seems like our facilities are going to become an accreditation issue if people walk around with open eyes. So is there a way we can address that by creating this plan? I assume this plan and this TCO operation, actually having one that is doable and in place and being used, will address some of those issues?
Yes, I'll answer the last part first. You know, TCO is part of accreditation, even though the new standards are coming out. It's still going to be part and parcel to accreditation. You know, accreditation is about continuous quality improvement. right? And so while accreditation doesn't tell you how to do something, it gives you the framework by which to do it. I think you've done the framework by which to do it. It's just, it was never fully rolled out. So you probably did the last one around the accreditation timeframe to get it for accreditation and so forth. But as I said, with continuous quality improvement, it's just like we need to take the report that was done last time. We need to improve it and move it to today's standard. But from an accreditation standpoint, I've sat on probably a dozen accreditation commissions or committees at this point. The current state of facilities is never an issue for accreditation, as long as you have a way to address it and long term. So remember, accreditation now is going over 7 years. And so as long as you have a way to address your facilities, and the district's done that in the past. Now, whether or not you put money behind it is a different issue, but we do have a way to address it, and I think we'll meet that going forward.
So the last question is, I assume you're part of some type of statewide facilities networks and community colleges.
I am.
How many of these problems exist across our community college system?
Well, if you take my sessions that I sat in last Thursday as an example, we probably had 100 people in both sessions. And I'd probably say it's probably a 50-50 split between single college and multi-college districts. And I'd say of the ones in the room, probably half of them had the same problems we do, in some variation, not all the same, but people struggle with deferred maintenance. People struggle with, what to spend their money on. People struggle with legacy issues. I mean, we're not new to this. We just have more of it because we're a bigger organization. And so we just have a little more to tackle, whereas other districts have tackled it a little bit at a time. They either don't have staffing, et cetera. So it's kind of all over the place on what it's like I tell people, it's, 31 flavors are just colleges, community college districts. So it's, everybody's got their own flavor of an issue. It's just a matter of what that is. And we spend a lot of time commiserating about how each other can help each other. And I've helped a couple of districts last week with some simple things because they have new people. And so we try to share as much as we can. But at the end of the day, it sits with their board and what their board's willing to do or willing not to do.
So just the final question. We used to get money from the state for, it was a weird category of instructional equipment and maintenance. Have we been getting that money lately, or will we get it in the future?
So you're referring to PPIS, which stands for Physical Plant and Instructional Support Funds. It's a block grant. We got a big bucket of money last year. As you know, they took a big chunk of it back when the state fell short on the funding. We have not received any in this fiscal year. And right now, even though the state's going to be asking for resources for next year, we don't know if those resources will matriculate or actually come to the districts. I would just say over my tenure in California, going on 15 years now, that money has been hit and miss. Some years be it my district, I get $100,000 one year, I get $1 million the next year. So it was never consistent by any stretch. Hence why I think the proposition was passed to lower the voting threshold for bonds from 66% to 55%. So a lot of districts could handle their facility needs based on Proposition 39.
Okay, thank you.
I think Trustee Delphine Polk has their hand raised.
Thank you so much. The last question, Vice President Quinlan, was a little bit alluding to what I was, or at least along the same lines that I was thinking. So thank you so much for this presentation. It was really informative. And I'm really grateful for y'all for putting this together. My question is around additional funding, because I know we had talked about deferred maintenance monies from the state. Has anyone identified, or does any other money exist outside of state money to go towards deferred maintenance? Outside of bonds, is there a possibility for that, like other kinds of grants? Does that exist?
Well, there are some grants, but they're usually program specific. When it comes to college campuses, there obviously is third party donor money when you're doing public private partnerships, which I'm accustomed to in my prior district. And so there's other, but I'd say the vast majority of the funding for districts currently is their local bonds. And then you have state funding secondarily, which is really a really small number. And then beyond that, the grants are even a much smaller percentage of that. So I would say the vast majority, I'd say 90+% of funding for districts is currently bond funds.
And that's the case for other multi-college districts as well?
It is. Like, for instance, San Diego's Community College District passed a $3.5 billion bond last week that they're going to be working off of, and they already have 2 other bonds that they haven't finished spending. So that just gives you an example of, in a lot of districts like LA, some of the bigger district multi-college districts going out for 900 plus over $1 billion now. do their taxability in their districts, but it's because their needs are so great that they have to ask for those resources.
One last question, can you speak a little bit more to the public-private partnerships that you mentioned? And what that would look like if that was something that our district would look at?
Sorry. I'll just give you a quick example. So my last district, I did two that were really successful. Actually three, but I'll talk about two real quick. One was we had our conference center that was a culinary arts conference center. We did a partnership with the Rotary to donate $5.5 million to that project. We put 14 million behind that project, and we gave them a 50-year lease to meet every Friday for the next 50 years and 5 events a year. So that became very beneficial to the district, and that property alone generated $1 million a year in net profit for the district. The other one is the Miwok Aquatic Center, which is 3 pools, 2 Olympic size. One of them is an Olympic dive tower, dive pool, and then we have a 50-meter pool. We did a lot of Special Olympics, U.S. Olympics, et cetera. That was a partnership with a local donor who donated $9.5 million to build the dive center to go along with that project. Again, that was a $39 million project with $9.5 million coming from her. So those are just a couple of quick examples of public-private partnerships that I've done where people have generated long-term leases off of the vast chunk of money. And then in both those, I would just mention, both those contracts came with $500,000 to $1 million a year in operational costs that went along with the building so we could operate the facilities long-term.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move to the consent calendar. So we're looking for a motion minus 8.1 and 8.2.
Move approval of consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Yes.
student trustee Byrne,
Yes.
trustee Woodrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So we'll move to action items, and why don't we start with 8.1 and 8.2?
So I have a conflict of interest. I have financial interests in 2 of the items, 8.1 and 8.2. So I need to excuse myself from discussing those.
Thank you, Vice President Quinlan. Yeah, so we need a motion and a second for 8.1 and 8.2.
Move approval.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Again, any discussion?
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Yes.
student trustee Byrne,
Yes.
trustee Woodrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So move on to the, welcome back, Vice President Quinlan. So we'll move on to the other action items. We'll start with 10.1, consider adoption of resolution number 2425-144 for the education protection account funding and expenditures for fiscal year 2024-25.
Board President Gonzalez Brito, this item before you is a standard item the districts had with the Schools and Local Public Safety Protection Act of 2012, passed in November 2012. The board is called to make a resolution each year dedicating where the funding is going. And so the board has done this annually. So this resolution is to approve spending of the educational protection account funds for instructional and classified salaries or operational costs of direct instruction. For your consideration.
Thank you, Chancellor. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I had a clarifying question, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So I read in this 10.1 document that it's around $13 million that will be distributed for educational funds. And I was wondering, is there any like specifications for how that will be, for where that will be chosen to be placed within the district? Or is it just that this money will be used for educational funds. Do we know what we would be doing with them at this moment?
Thank you so much for the question, student trustee Parmigiani. So this is ongoing money that's come directly to the district annually for the last number of years. And so this has actually been baked into the budget. So the district has considered these funds as part of the budget that comes forward to the board. So these things will be used directly related to instructional costs. And so they are going to be non-administrative instructional activities is where these dollars are spent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or discussion? Okay,
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Yes.
student trustee Byrne,
Yes.
trustee Whitbrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito.
yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So I'll move to 10.2, consider adoption of resolution number 2425-145 to designate a specific product for the Laney College fire alarm project. Is there a
Thank
motion?
you so much, Board President. We recently obtained Division of State Architect approval for a fire alarm system project at Laney College. And we want to use the Edwards EST fire alarm system versus the proprietary JCI system that only allows us to use Johnson Controls for our maintenance services. District staff researched options and selected Edwards because there are more than 30 service providers in the area, which allows us more flexibility for procurement, service, and repair. We can assess whether we want to transition to Edwards for other projects and replacement district-wide based on this project. So this resolution allows us the opportunity to use one sole source for this.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And Vice President Quinlan has a question.
So Chancellor, to get Laney, so we can move forward on our building projects, the theater, the library. Didn't Johnson Controls submit a plan to the state for the fire alarm maintenance? Is that part of the?
I don't know if you can hear me or not. So the plan was approved at DSA for a fire alarm for the whole campus, not so much for the maintenance of the project. The JCI issue around maintenance was related to ongoing litigation prior for the district that did not involve the maintenance of the fire alarm system.
And let me clarify, we still are using JCI for maintenance of our fire alarm system. So we are doing this sole project to test out and see whether this option works for the district while still maintaining our relationship with Johnson Controls and JCI.
So this won't impact our
No,
projects at DSA then?
no, it will not.
FDA will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or discussion?
I'm excited about this possibility because it's been a long time since we've had, or JCI has had a monopoly on our district, and I'm sure many other districts. So I'm very excited. I hope this works.
Okay,
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Yes.
student trustee Byrne,
Yes.
trustee Whitbrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Yuan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito.
yes.
Motion passes.
So I move to our final action item 10.3, consider adoption of resolution number 2425-146, authorizing the district's withdrawal of membership in the Alliance of Schools Cooperative Insurance Program Joint Powers Authority for property liability and workers' compensation and the school's excess liability fund Joint Powers Authority effective July 1st, 2025, and authorizing membership in the statewide Association of Community Colleges and the Protected Insurance Program for Schools Joint Power Authority effective July 1st, 2025.
Thank you, Board President. So this is one of the items that aligns directly to the board's goals about efficiency and really looking at our operations and better positioning the district. So the resolution to approve leaving the Alliance of Schools Cooperative Insurance Program, ASCIP, and entering the statewide Association of Community Colleges, SWAC, and the Protected Insurance Program for Schools Joint Powers Authority, which is known as PIPS. The transition will allow us to be a more representative of property, liability, and workers' compensation coverage with more community college districts. The move is anticipated to give us more resources and save the district approximately $625,000 based on this year's premiums for Keenan and Associates.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Yes.
student trustee Byrne,
Yes.
trustee Whitrow,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoleon Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, that is all our action items. So we'll move to Board of Trustee reports. Start to my left.
Excuse me. All right, apologies for not being able to make it to the last board meeting as I was at a conference for Peralta. But all that to say, there was a presentation regarding the Sisson Blackwell scholarship for a nursing student that's going to an HBCU, transferring to an HBCU, and student that was previously incarcerated, so reentry. And so they said that there was a run and walk Lake Merritt Saturday morning at 10 a.m., which I was able to attend. I actually saw also President Dixon as well there. Kim Blackwell was wonderful host and I guess coordinator of all this at Laney. Also met other counselors at Laney, Janelle, wonderful person. And so we were able to basically raise funds for these students and to make this sustainable. I wasn't able to see all of y'all there, but don't fret, y'all can still donate. So so I stole their sign. So if anyone wants to, please go ahead, put your phone out. This will be here throughout, but thank you.
Vice President Quinlan.
Yes, I had the pleasure of attending the ACCT concert with Trustee Johannes and the Chancellor. I went to some amazing workshops. I saw some things being done around the country that I think we can do it. I think they're doable things, that we have both the drive and the leadership, and that our community is in need of these projects. The other thing is I went to the Halloween Fest at the Laney Field. And I must say our classified staff shines. And what I would like to take from that, our classified staff around the district are involved in many projects supporting our students. And I would encourage people to, many of us on this board have been blessed with abundance, and that we share that abundance with our students as we go forward, that we'll have things at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, and we can volunteer in the giveaways and things like that, and supporting, the kids of our students. So I would encourage everybody to do that to the greatest ability they can.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just make this brief. I had the opportunity, I think it was last week, to attend the retirement party for Wyman Fong, who used to be our director of human resources here. It's a really extraordinary gathering, and it reminds me of the quality of many administrators who come through this district, who then go on to serve in other districts and really contribute in incredible ways. And I just want to give a shout out to Wyman, because, he left us, went to Chipotle Las Positas, served there as their vice chancellor, but really developed a statewide presence and a national presence, doing great boosting for the community colleges, for competent administration, for the API community. You know, I don't know what's in store for him in his next piece, but I hope that it's some rest and then something really meaningful, because he's an extraordinarily talented person, and I think it reflects well on Peralta. And that he also just kept tight bonds with this district and this region throughout his career. So Wyman, congratulations. And it was nice representing part of Peralta there. There were some other folks from College of Alameda, and former trustee Handy and former trustee Brown were there as well. All right, thanks.
Deeper report, yes, okay. We'll go online, trustee Delphine Polk.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I can't be there. I'm at a conference currently, but I will be back in time for our CCLC conference next week. We have a lot to discuss, and I'm really looking forward to being there. I believe most of our colleagues will be there from around the state, so looking forward to that and happy to report back on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that student trustee Parmigiani?
Yes. Hi, everyone. We have quite a bit to report on since the last meeting. So firstly, congratulations to Urson, the newly elected COA student body president. Peralta is really lucky to have him, and this is really exciting after getting to meet him, actually. That's wonderful news. And then for the month of October, we wanted to echo what the chancellor said about the district-wide guided pathways retreat. Thank you especially to Mark Johnson and the Peralta media team, COA faculty, and to Trustee Lewis Quinlan and Chancellor Gilgerson for speaking at this event and for the immense support you gave us with your knowledge and experience. We hosted about 20 student government leaders in attendance, and Trustee Byrne and I were able to get to know them a little better and present on resources such as the role of student trustees, the trustee board governing policies, and more, all that is available to our students. So that was a really successful event. And then next, we had the chance to attend the California Community College Student Affairs Association Conference, or the CISA conference. And we ran into Merritt Campus Life Advisor Doris Hankins along with Merritt Student Government. Two workshops that really stood out to us were on student civic engagement and on increasing accessibility for DSP students. We learned about the Civic and Voter Empowerment Act, AB 963, and we're working on implementing this throughout the years, even during years that do not fall during the election period, because it's never too early for students to pre-register and to learn about their voters' rights and community issues. So stay tuned for spring, where we will be hosting more events related to the sharing of civic resources. And I will pass it on to Pierce. Thank you.
Student trustee Byrne.
All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry I wasn't able to make it today. I'm currently at Berkeley City College. Sorry, I have my list of reports right here. On Halloween, we had office hours at BCC where we handed out candy to students and provided a safe space for these students to share their thoughts and feelings on the campus. The next following week, on Tuesday, the day of the elections, we worked alongside BCC Campus Life advisors, Renaya Johnson, as well as the student ambassadors, to provide voters information and stickers for students who registered to vote and partook in our photo booth operated by Tom Rizza. We also had pamphlets with a QR code that sent students to California's websites that indicated the nearest ballot booths and the nearest places to vote. Sorry. We will be hosting a student government retreat, a student government meeting with the 4 Peralta colleges again this Friday, where we can continue communications, and if this time works for everyone, we would heavily consider hosting this meeting once a month, sort of like a guided pathways that we had a couple of weeks ago, but just completely online. That way it's more accessible for students to join. And last but not least, we are working with Mark Johnson to launch our Peralta student marketing advisor groups to students. I want to say, give a quick shout out to him because he's really helped us out with this progress. I know it's a lot for him, but I know it's a lot that that's been going on, but he's really stuck through it. So I want to say thank you to him about that. We have created a flyer and an interest form for students to get excited about spring enrollment. We're currently searching new ways to effectively reach out to these students in hopes to get great reception. And we are very excited for it to launch. So thank you, everyone. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. I just want to, as part of my report, encourage everybody to take part in the Peralta Foundation scholarship readings that are happening. We found them to be very inspiring last time and a good reminder of why I'm here. And I also will be at the CCLC conference next week. I know Vice President Quinlan and others will be there as well. So I think that concludes our report, and we'll move to announcements. Vice President Quinlan.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank our Publicity Director Johnson and Sasha for making sure that I have the copy I'm supposed to read as opposed to trying to find it in my email. So here's our announcements for November 12th. Pardon? Please.
Action.
Okay. Announcements for November 12th, 2024. Number one, Love Your Future. Enrollment is now open for the spring 2025 semester. Visit the Peralta website at peralta.edu enroll to start the application enrollment process. Two, the Bond Measures Oversight Committee will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, November 13th, 2024, here in the boardroom from 5:30 to 7:30. And three, hope you all had a good Veterans Day holiday. Please join us in celebrating Veterans Day at Merritt College on Thursday, November 14th at noon. The Veterans Connection Center at Merritt College is now in full operation, so come visit in our room R108. And just my additional announcement, I would like to thank the veterans we have on our board, Trustee Johannes and Trustee Bill. Sorry, I can't see you down there. For their service, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are going to do that in honor and memoriam of Emmy Brewer, a beloved EOPS Care CalWorks counselor at Laney College. For nearly 20 years, she passed away in October. Emmy dedicated her career to helping others. Inspired by her own experiences, she empowered students to pursue their dreams and improve their lives. Her positive attitude, unwavering support, and genuine care for others made her an invaluable member of the EOPS program. Emmy's legacy will continue to inspire and uplift those she touched. Let us close this meeting with a moment of silence in memory of Imogen Brewer. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.